Nietzsche has noticed that something's happened like the following. I'll try to sum it up with something I heard one night Jerry Falwell say. By the way, this is all philosophical. Don't get confused. When we do philosophy my way, we just talk about what's going on and to try to find our way about. Because my negative remarks were, if you think that, like, John Rawls from Harvard can come up here and help you with this problem, then it's useless. I can't either, but we're going to at least talk about my inability to do so. There's a difference. So I call that the Socratic difference. I'm willing to talk about my inability to figure out who I am, and my guess that most of you have the same problem. Well, anyway, let me go back to my Falwell story because it's too funny to leave out. You know, I think it's funny. Falwell has a line where he goes, you know, I love the homosexual, but I hate his homosexuality. For Nietzsche, that's a profound Christian remark. Oh, we Christians, we love our enemies. We love our enemies. If they hit us, we don't even hit them back. But someday our kingdom will come. You know, you've seen the bumper stickers. Someday our kingdom too will come. Of course, they say that because people are supposed to be so very humble in all they say. It's an irony not appreciated by everyone. The greatest passage here, and I've used it in a tape before, so if you have the other tape, just replay it now. But now, the other, Nietzsche has this wonderful quote where he goes, Dante, I think, committed a crude blunder, which is, of course, already a fairly arrogant remark, but he's a German, so what the hell. Dante, I think, committed a crude blunder when above the gateway to the Christian paradise he placed the words, above the gateway to the Christian hell, he placed the words, I too was created by eternal love. I mean, that is in Dante. Above the gateway to hell is, I too was created by eternal love. Nietzsche says it would be truer to place above the gateway to the Christian paradise, I too was created by eternal hate, provided that one could write a truth above the gateway to a lie. The people that write that pungently raise suspicions in our minds. You know, they raise these suspicions. And it's not just them. If you read St. Thomas carefully, and I'm not talking now about one of these renegade 19th century figures that set the stage for this sort of problem of meaning that we're faced with in the late 20th. But St. Thomas Aquinas himself says that among the chief pleasures in heaven will be that God will be kind enough to let us see the torments of the damned. Meanwhile, we live in faith, in hope, and in compassion. After these three are through with our intellectual culture, Marx, Nietzsche, and Freud, no one can believe, no one. It's like childhood's end for our culture. Follow me? It's childhood's end. You know how you can believe something when you're a child, and it's not like you can't come to believe it again when you're 60. You may be cynical about it again until you're 60. But these critiques mark childhood's end in regard to finding meaning in that religious framework. And I mean, Paul Ricoeur has a beautiful phrase for it. He says, the positive significance of these criticisms I've mentioned is what they have in common, and that's their iconoclasm, the fight against the gods of men. That's very interesting. In other words, their iconoclasm is their fight against the gods we've created so far. And that is what they have in common. He goes on to say, this atheism that we've just discussed, this attack on the God or the gods of men, is not of the kind that some contemporary philosopher is going to get up and dispute. Because this has to do with the very things that form the consciousness of the person who would be willing to dispute it. In other words, you'll never know after Marx and Nietzsche and Freud whether your argument is an argument or a symptom. You follow me? You won't know whether you've got a good argument or a bad symptom. You just, there's no way. That's the problem of finding, you know, your real self here. And Ricoeur himself is a Christian, and so he says the following. A Marxist critique of ideology, a Nietzschean critique of resentment, which is what I just discussed, and a Freudian critique of infantile distress are hereafter the views through which any kind of mediation of faith must pass. Now, does that mean that every ordinary religious person has to know these writers and stuff? No. These suspicions have become widespread in our culture. We don't need anymore, in a way, to be instructed in them because they permeate our culture. This is what conservatives complain about, in a way. They go, well, you know, every time they show a Christian on TV, he's either out for money or he really hates people or it's some sexual thing. Where does that come from? See, the cultural critique of these people has insinuated itself everywhere. So the first thing you think when someone comes on a little too strong with religion is you start running through the masters of suspicion going, well, what does he want? My billfold? What kind of, is he on some bizarre sexual trip? Is this another Jimmy Swaggart thing? What kind of power trip is it for him, you know? I mean, we've got some of these guys in Dallas now who just get on TV and say, give me money because God says for you to give me money. You give me money and you'll get some money back. Not from me, but from God. He'll keep God's money. And you'll get money from God. And that's a nice deal between him and God. It's a wonderful advantage. Okay, now, the reason I've spent so much time on these Masters of Suspicion, the title of the first lecture, Masters of Suspicion, these are critiques that were developed in the 19th and into the 20th century. They've become a common possession of our culture, and they've cut off one of the reservoirs within which we might find a coherent meaning for our life. One of the reservoirs being religious faith. Not entirely. It's not like we can't go back and have it. It's that we must have it under the mark of complexity. Follow me? Under the mark of insecurity. Under the mark of confusion about it. It's not that you can't. It's just under those marks. And then I think that I'll close this first lecture with a brief little story from a movie, The Big Chill. Now, I hate the film The Big Chill. Let me make that clear, and I hope I can't be sued for hating a movie. I hate The Big Chill because it's about members of my generation, all of whom have become swine. The only person in the movie I like is dead when the movie starts. And they're having his funeral, and the old preacher says something quite profound. He asks the crowd of young yuppies, he goes, isn't our common life together and just being a good man enough to sustain us anymore? And the answer to that is no. It's no. That's why people hate Bill Clinton. The symbolic reason they hate him is there was this background of sort of Kennedy-esque meaning, and he was supposed to deliver it, and it turns out he's just another slightly overweight Southern guy. And our lives don't mean any more than they did a year ago. And we're pissed. We're mad at him. We're going, damn it, Bill. We wanted an adventure. We wanted meaning. Wanted hope. It's not just tax and spend. I mean, of course, if you ask somebody, I want your money, give it to me, they don't like you. But I mean, they can't figure that out either. That's part of their problem in politics. In any case, the question of the Big Chill is what I wanted to conclude with, and that's the rhetorical question the preacher asks. Unfortunately, with the self under siege in the late 20th century, the answer to that is no. Our common life among our fellow human beings and leading the life of just a good man or woman is not enough to sustain us anymore. It's a shame.